Thank you for taking time to view this video about the Edmundite missions. Jesus offered the Good Samaritan parable to answer the question, who is my neighbor? With violence and robberies frequent in Selma, the parable could easily describe an event today in the Edmundite missions. As you view this video, you might identify with the priest or the Levite in the parable, who ask themselves, if I stop to help, what will happen to me? The hope, however, is that after you view this video, you will be a good Samaritan who asks, if I don't help, what will happen to this person who is in desperate need? If you are the poor, beaten, robbed person, you may ask, does my life matter to anyone? If my life doesn't matter to anyone, I will surely die. An African proverb says, we see life from where we stand. When William Rufus King stood at Moore's Bluff in the mid-1800s, he was a politician and a planter from North Carolina and a future vice president of the United States. He saw the potential for a queen city to be built upon the rich soil of Alabama's Black Belt, where cotton was king. When he planned the city, King named it Selma, which means high seat or throne. When Father Jean-Baptiste Mouard stood in Pontigny, France, he was a young French Catholic priest. Mouard saw the need to re-engage and re-evangelize disillusioned, alienated, and searching individuals whose religious faith had eroded as the secular culture of his day spread. In 1843, Mouard pleaded with his bishop to give him the ruined and abandoned Cistercian Abbey of Pontigny, from which a missionary band might reach out to reclaim and engage the French, who had once proudly saw themselves as the eldest daughter of the church. Long before paved roads and interstate highways, railroads and riverboats made long-distance travel possible. In the 1800s, 5 different railroads radiated from Selma, Alabama. The railroads made it possible for missionaries from Charleston and Savannah, and later from New Orleans and Mobile, to ensure the good news of the gospel reached Selma. By the 1860s, Selma's 5 railroads also provided the means for the Selma pastor to spread the gospel, administer the sacraments, and care for the people within a wide range of central Alabama. The Society of Jesus from Spring Hill, Alabama, took over the pastoral care of the Selma parish in 1880. Jesuit fathers based in Selma served at one time or another 14 counties in Alabama. Besides being responsible for missions in Calhoun County to the north, the Selma pastor also had pastoral care of Grove Hill in Clark County to the south, and Demopolis in Marengo County to the west. Selma's mission field was 320 miles long by 50 to 70 miles wide. About 450 faithful were scattered throughout the missions. In Selma, the Madams of the Sacred Heart, and later the Sisters of Mercy, operated a Catholic school for girls, and the Jesuits offered a Catholic school for boys. The schools provided a strong, value-laden Christian education that encouraged several young Selma youth to enter the convent and others to become priests. Significant historical events all occurred on June the 19th. In 1862, slavery was abolished, and in 1964, the Civil Rights was enacted. In 1870, the Selma Catholic Church was dedicated. If we go back to the year 325, we discover the Nicene Creed was formally adopted on June 19th. That ancient creed states that we believe we are one, holy, Catholic, and Apostolic Church. The Edmundite founder, who died on June 19th in 1854, wanted those marks of the Church to be the attributes of the Edmundites. He wanted us to be one, to be holy, to be Catholic, to be apostolic. Strive for unity and for perfection. Today we would say, don't just talk the walk. Let people see that you walk the talk. Let people see that Catholic means universal. Don't be parochial and rigid. Be welcoming, hospitable, and adaptive. Father O'Leary from County Cork, Ireland, as pastor, ensured that the Selma Church would begin construction on none other than the feast of St. Patrick in 1869. After the Civil War, many former Union soldiers, like Captain Henry Cochran, who served as Selma's postmaster for many years, settled in Dallas County. He and other former Union soldiers joined with former Confederate soldiers like Captain Richard English, who became the editor of the Selma Times. Setting differences aside, they worked together, using stones from the old Confederate arsenal to erect the Selma Catholic Church. The stones from a war which deeply divided people became the stones whereby the swords of war became the plowshares of peace. Daniel Rudd was a Catholic journalist and civil rights leader who was born into slavery. He worked in an era when the United States was mostly Protestant. Even today, Alabama Catholics comprise less than 5% of the state's total population. Most of those served by the Edmundite missions are not Catholic. Rudd started the National Black Catholic Congress in 1889. This Congress still gathers every 5 years to identify needs, establish goals, and formulate plans. The last National Black Catholic Congress was held in 2017 and attended by over 2,500 African American Catholics from all over the United States. Rudd recognized the important role that the Catholic Church offers to the people of all races and nations. These are Rudd's words. The Negro of this country, ostracized, abused, downtrodden, and condemned, needs all the forces which may be brought to bear in his behalf to elevate him to that plane of equality, which would give him the status he needs as a man among men. We need assistance and should obtain help whenever and wherever it can be given. The Holy Roman Catholic Church offers to the oppressed Negro a material as well as spiritual refuge superior to all the inducements of other organizations combined. We need the church. the church wants us. Investigate, brethren. See, comprehend for yourselves, and we are satisfied as to what will be the answer. Blacks, the poor, and the marginalized surely need the church, and the Catholic Church clearly wants them and intends to serve them. When Father Mouard started the Edmundite community in 1843, his idea was quite simple. Edmundites would give priority to the needy, the poor, the ignorant, the sinner. In short, those most needed to experience God's love and the good news of the gospel. Mouard's band would serve as auxiliaries who would augment the efforts of the regular clergy. Edmundites would work for the glory of God and the salvation of neighbor by preaching, teaching, witnessing, and serving in ways that reflected the love of the Sacred Heart of Jesus and the Immaculate Heart of Mary. While Daniel Rudd recognized that blacks needed the church and the church wanted them, today individuals are abandoning not only the faith, but also the great commission that Jesus gave his followers to transform the world into the kingdom of God. Sadly, we are moving from a nation that once prided itself on having freedom of religion to a nation that advances freedom from religion. Nationally, the number of Americans who claim no religious affiliation is rapidly increasing. While 218 Christian churches exist in Dallas County, Alabama, the 210 U.S. Census revealed nearly 40% of Dallas County residents claim no religious affiliation. God wanted Mouard's band of auxiliaries to grow and serve beyond the diocese in which Pontigny was located. An early member became the bishop of the diocese where Mont Saint-Michel is located, and he wanted Mouard's men to serve there. Serving the church in multiple dioceses led to the communities being recognized with pontifical status. Edmundites speak of Father Pierre Boyer as a co-founder because the mantle of leadership fell on his shoulders for the first 40 years of the community's history. Boyer oversaw efforts to revitalize the faith through parish missions and pilgrimages and to train and educate students and missionaries. France adopted laws that confiscated religious property and forced religious orders to disband. Edmundites once taught students at Château-Grancière in France. The stained glass window in the school shows St. Michael the Archangel and the Latin words quis ut Deus, who is like God, which reflects what Michael's name means. The window depicts Jesus teaching elders on the left and Jesus teaching children on the right. Below Michael the Archangel is Father Armand Prevel giving communion to a youth. Attending to the many hungers of youth has been a priority for Edmundites from the very beginning. Father Prevel became the first president of St. Michael's College. Fleeing France to survive, Edmundites went to French-speaking Quebec. Soon, the bishop in Vermont, who was a native of France, invited Edmundites to come to his diocese. The bishop in Vermont knew that Edmundites had been good teachers in France, so he naturally saw them as the answer to his prayers to start a Catholic college. Conducting parish missions throughout New England naturally helped to recruit state students for the new Catholic college. As Pontigny Abbey in France had served as a place for pilgrims, so St. Anne's Shrine on Lake Champlain became an attractive place for Catholics to renew their faith and express their devotion. Until recent years, the shrine was open only from May through early October. Today, St. Anne's Shrine continues to offer its traditional programs during the summer months. With the building of retreat and workshop facilities, however, the shrine is now able to offer year-round programs, many tailored for young adults. Social justice issues were a growing concern in the early 1900s. Pope Leo XIII issued an encyclical to address child labor, oppressive working conditions, and the economic hardship faced by many. The Edmundites became involved with social justice and the plight of workers in Vermont's woolen mills. Edmundite concern for the poor and the needy disposed them to undertake Cheyenne Indian missions in Montana. The demands in the 1920s were so great, however, that the Montana missions had to be given to others. While the Edmundites struggled to survive, God blessed the religious order with new members. In fact, the community began to grow significantly. When John Carroll wrote to the Pope in 1785, he said there were slightly more than 15,000 Catholics in Maryland, and that 1 out of 5 Catholics were black. 150 years later, Pope Pius XI appealed to the Edmundite community to send members to the Deep South to serve blacks. The Pope wanted the Catholic Church to have a greater presence and to play a larger role with color. Bishop Thomas Tulin invited the Society of St. Edmund to establish its base of operations in Selma, Alabama. When the Edmundites first came to Selma, it was not to see beautiful antebellum homes. It was even less to walk across the now famous Edmund Pettus Bridge, which was still in the process of construction. When the society received Pope Pius XI's request, the Edmundites were by and large an order of priests and brothers running their small Catholic college in Vermont. Many Edmundites had never been south of the Ohio, and some members of the society had never even seen a black person. But the Edmundites took the Pope's request as a call from God. The Society of St. Edmund sent Father Francis Casey and Father John Perro to Selma with $50 and a used Pontiac to respond to Pope Pius XI's request and Bishop Tulin's invitation. The decision was in keeping with the Society's preeminent commitment to go where most needed and to minister to the poorest. The Edmundite founder had underscored that one's actions speak louder than one's words. Certainly more than preaching and teaching would be required. If someone has nothing to eat and nothing to wear, feed them, clothe them. Your faith requires you to do more than feed a person's soul. Father Casey and Father Perro underscored and understood you can't clothe someone in Christ until you have addressed the nakedness of their human dignity. From the beginning, the Edmundites realized that the level of hunger among the poor and their lack of access to health care impeded any other initiatives to improve their lives. So the Edmundites began handing sandwiches out of the back door of their residence on Broad Street, which was one of the main thoroughfares through one of the poorest areas of Selma. Although resources were very limited, Father Casey and Father Perro did the best they could with what little they had to serve those most in need. They knew what the words of James' epistle required and went about addressing those basic human needs as well as providing the sacraments. The Society's mission in the Deep South was initially seen in terms of winning converts to Catholicism. The Edmundites went from door to door in the black community, inviting people to attend services at the new chapel on Broad Street and offering to answer any questions people might have about the Catholic faith. But as has been said, the Edmundites were so overwhelmed by the poverty they found that they soon began meeting the material needs of the people they came to serve. No doubt they told themselves that practicing the corporal works of mercy would, in the long run, be more effective than 100 sermons to demonstrate the value of the faith they wished to share with others. That mission soon attracted the support of other dedicated souls. The Sisters of St. Joseph of Rochester, New York, were the first group of sisters to join the Edmundites in their service to the poor and needy of Selma. They arrived in 1940 and quickly began setting up St. Elizabeth's School. The Sisters of St. Joseph have served continuously the Edmundite missions for over 80 years. As the number of Edmundites continued to increase, the number of mission sites also increased. The Society of St. Edmund established apostolic missions along Mobile Bay and Gadsden in Alabama, and the Albemarle region in North Carolina. Other religious communities, such as the Daughters of the Holy Spirit, made further expansion possible. Just as faith must include good works, Father Casey knew that apostolic labors must be joined with fervent prayer. So in 1943, he persuaded Discalced Carmelites in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, to establish a Carmel monastery in Mobile, Alabama, to pray for the success of the Edmundite missions. Dedicated lay women also became partners in ministry. Dr. Isabel Dumont and her associate Joan Mulder are buried beside the graves of deceased Edmundite missionaries in Selma, because these dedicated lay women provided during most of their earthly lives quality health care to the poor. Dr. Dumont delivered babies, set broken bones, performed all kinds of surgeries, and so much more. She and Joan Mulder certainly embraced the Church's teaching on the sacredness of life and the dignity of each and every person. Isabel and Joan, together with the Sisters of St. Joseph nurses, enabled the Edmundite missions to open and operate Good Samaritan Hospital, the only hospital in Dallas County that served blacks when segregation reigned supreme throughout Alabama. Good Sam, as it was called, also trained young black women to be skilled practical nurses who were later hired throughout the country. Young black men found Bosco Boys Club, a creative activity that ensured their future success as well. What had served as Senior Care Inn on Union Street became Bosco Boys Club House, which would later become the site of Bosco Soup Kitchen. While Bosco Boys Club was successful because of the labors of Father Nelson Zider, the club was actually founded by Father Vincent Coyne. He was called into military service shortly after the program's inception. Pope Pius XI, who asked the Edmundites to begin their apostolate in the South in 1937, had canonized John Bosco, an Italian Catholic priest and educator, in 1934. John, or as he's often known, Don Bosco, advocated putting youth in an environment removed from the likelihood of committing sin and getting into trouble. Coyne and Zider saw Bosco Boys Club as a way to engage, encourage, educate, empower, and of course, entertain energetic boys who otherwise might give up or get into trouble. Bosco Boys Club created a vision of greatness for Selma's aspiring youth and provided reason to hope for a better future. Bosco Boys Club alumni have gathered each July for a reunion. The past success of this youth program is evidenced by the successful careers that many Bosco boys enjoyed in their adult lives. A new community center has been built to set today's youth of Selma on similar paths to success. Because forming youth had a high priority, the School Sisters of Notre Dame and the Sisters of the Holy Union came as teachers. When the Southern Mission celebrated its 65th anniversary in 2002, 17 sisters from 7 different religious congregations were serving as true partners in ministry in many different capacities. The priority commitment of women religious to serve the poor is most striking at the time when their national number decreased from 160,000 sisters in the United States in 1970 to half that number in the year 2000. Elder care has also had a priority, as evidenced by opening of Good Samaritan Nursing Home in 1957. With young newly ordained priests, Father James Robinson and Father Moses Anderson, who were Selma natives, additional apostolic sites were possible in North Carolina and the Florida Panhandle. The opening sentence of the Second Vatican Council's document Gaudium et Spes identifies succinctly the mission of the Church in the modern world with these words: the joys and the hopes, the sorrows and the anxieties of this age, especially those who are poor or in any way afflicted. These are the joys and hopes, the sorrows and anxieties of the followers of Christ. In a world which is so often self-preoccupied, the Second Vatican Council calls us to have solidarity with others. Entering into the hopes, the sorrows, and the anxieties of the poor and the needy is no easy task. The Edmundite missions have sometimes met with opposition, even hatred, and efforts to end their presence. Despite racism, hatred, and division, the Edmundite missions have persisted for more than 80 years. Bloody Sunday occurred in 1965. Yet more than 50 years later, racism still challenges our nation and world. After Bloody Sunday, the entire student body at St. Michael's College filled the newly completed college chapel to hear Edmundite Father Morris Willett, who was pastor in Selma, describe the brutal events in Selma on Bloody Sunday. Standing in the sanctuary beneath the figure of Jesus on the cross, Willett delivered what came to be known as his uncomfortable Christ talk, in which he described those beaten, scarred externally and internally by the fists of hatred, those filled with the frustration of despair, those jeered at, bruised, gassed, and in pain. Willett's words touched the hearts of the students who volunteered to go to Elizabeth City, North Carolina, to tutor Black youths who were members of the Black Edmundite parish there. The experience changed not only St. Michael's students, but also Elizabeth City youth. Father James Robison, who was the pastor in Elizabeth City, and Father Moses Anderson, who was the dean at St. Michael's College, formulated the tutorial project. Both were natives of Selma and knew the value of education and mentoring. When Moses became auxiliary bishop, he took as his motto, unity in diversity, that echoed the Second Vatican Council's call for solidarity. As racial riots and unrest plagued the nation in the 1960s, the word of Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. had special meaning for those who had been involved in the North Carolina project. People fail to get along because they fear each other. They fear each other because they don't know each other. They don't know each other because they have not communicated with each other. The famous scientist Albert Einstein made the observation, what you see depends on where you stand. And the therapist, Steve DeShazer, underscored it this way. Where you stand determines what you see and what you do not see. It determines also the angle from which you see it. A change in where you stand changes everything. Author Barry Neil Kaufman put it this way. The way we choose to see the world creates the world we see. What made you the person you are today? Who shaped your life? Who molded you and formed you? Who disciplined you away from evil and pointed you toward the good? Who taught you how to love like Jesus? Whose loves and lives witnessed for you real sacrificial love, lives poured out for others? Someone asked the little slave girl in Uncle Tom's Cabin, who made you? And she replied, don't think nobody ever made me. I suspect I growed. I suspect each of us has grown into the person we are today because of the people who invested themselves in us, the ones who helped us make the right choices, set important goals, and cultivate the virtues needed to succeed. In 1971, Archbishop John L. May shared the conviction that was advanced in 1891 by Black journalist Daniel Rudd, who said, the Catholic Church alone can break the color line. Our people should help her do it. Until 1971, two Catholic churches existed in Selma. While Selma was a small city with many churches, in 1971, none of the churches, including the two Catholic churches, were truly integrated. The best means to achieve integration in 1971 appeared to be by merging two communities into one parish. While Bloody Sunday occurred over 50 years ago, even today, Our Lady Queen of Peace Parish is one of the few churches in Dallas County with a truly integrated congregation. The end of segregation ultimately led to the demise and closing of Good Samaritan Hospital, which found itself serving only the uninsured poor. The Edmundite Missions was unable to raise sufficient funds to keep the hospital open. But God doesn't allow one door to close without opening another door. Mission Director Father Roger LaCharity had maintained Father Casey's basic approach. Do the best you can with what little you have to serve those most in need. So Father LaCharity shifted healthcare from Good Samaritan Hospital in Selma to multiple rural health clinics in the surrounding counties. Dallas County, Lowndes County, Monroe County, Wilcox County, and Perry County are listed among the 100 poorest counties in the United States. Besides extreme poverty, Alabama's Black Belt has some of the highest infant, child, and teen mortality rates in the nation, as well as some of the shortest life expectancies in the world. As the poor availed themselves of health services, other pressing needs and concerns became very evident. As a result, the Edmundite missions opened learning centers, clothing dispensaries, food pantries, and social outreach services. In the 25th chapter of Matthew's Gospel, Jesus describes Judgment Day, when the criteria for entering heaven will be based upon what we've done during our lives on earth. Have we fed the hungry, clothed the naked, sheltered the homeless, and cared for the sick and the downtrodden? The Edmundite missions recycled an inn for the aged into a facility for Bosco Boys Club. Later, the building became Bosco Soup Kitchen. When the number being fed outgrew the building, the mission's old warehouse became the Edmundite Center of Hope, with half the building designated as the Bosco Nutrition Center. Bosco Nutrition Center feeds over 1,000 persons every day. Every day. Imagine what it takes to feed that many people 365 days a year. And feeding the hungry is only one facet of the outreach of the Edmundite missions. With substantially fewer priests, brothers, and sisters, the Edmundite recognized that the Elizabeth City Tutorial Project and MOVE, or what is called Mobilization of Volunteer Efforts at St. Michael's College, demonstrated the value and the importance of engaging others, non-members, as full partners in ministry. In 1992, Father Stephen Hornet started an Edmundite Missions Corps to serve the poor and needy in Selma, Alabama, and New Orleans, Louisiana. The Edmundite Missions Corps enabled the society to open a nativity model school in New Orleans. Bishop Perry Middle School provided the foundation for Black young men to succeed. Tyrone Walker was among its graduates. During his first week at predominantly white St. Michael's College, his classmates elected him president of the class. By his senior year, the entire student body elected him to be president of the Student Association. Today, Tyrone Walker is a young Black leader in Louisiana. Dr. Paul J. Rice, during his tenure as president of St. Michael's College, had encouraged the Edmundites to open the Nativity Model School. Rice himself had for many years offered his property in Lake Placid, New York, as a summer camp site for several Nativity Model schools in New York City. Rice was familiar not only with efforts at the Edmundite-founded college in Vermont, where he was serving as president, but also the schools and learning centers and the missions which he deeply supported. In 1996, Rice identified these 5 essential elements that might be called the Edmundite learning tradition. Respect persons. Seek the truth. promote moral life, commit to service, and foster community. Pope Paul VI underscored how best to engage those we seek to evangelize and serve. We must not only see life through their eyes, but also use their language, their signs, their symbols. The Holy Father taught effective evangelization must answer the questions they ask and address the concerns they have. A mosaic of Sister Thea Bowman was created from numerous photographs of volunteers, donors, staff, and those involved with the Edmundite missions over the years. These words of Sister Thea reflect the efforts of these many generous and committed individuals who changed and reshaped so many lives over the years. I'm somebody. I'm somebody special. I'm God's child. I can change things. I can make life better for myself. I can make life better for my family and my community. The Edmundite missions invited Dr. Susan Raymond with Changing Our World to come to Selma to identify present concerns and to see them through the eyes of the people served. The Edmundite missions is changing lives, and in so doing is changing the world. Dr. Raymond helped to move the Edmundite missions from being a good Samaritan to a better Samaritan. The generosity of Catherine Bullock and her deceased husband Michael made possible the Bullock Community Center, which was opened in 2020. The purpose of the center is to draw the entire Selma community together with multiple programs and activities that meet the diverse needs of area residents and unite the community. During the COVID-19 pandemic, the Bullock Community Center served as an academic resource center, providing computers, tutors, and volunteers from AmeriCorps' National Civilian Community Corps. When Archbishop Thomas Rhodey dedicated the Bullock Community Center, he applauded Chad McEachran, the president and CEO of the Edmundite Missions, for all that he and his staff were doing for the poor of Central Alabama. Archbishop Rhodey also thanked Father David Cray, the Superior General, and Father Brian Cummings, the Chairman of the Board of Directors, for the effective ministry of the Society of St. Edmund for more than 80 years. Bosco Nutrition Center has served 3.9 million meals during the past 35 years. In addition to being a constant source of food, Bosco is a leader in solving nutrition problems. The poor were hungry, and they were fed. They were thirsty, and they were given something to drink. Meals of Hope are delivered to the homebound elderly and disabled. The sick and the lonely are visited daily. The mission's commitment to feeding those in need also extends to its work outside of Selma. For the last 15 years, the missions has provided food assistance in 3 rural areas, all of which are among the poorest counties in the state. These services comprise after-school programs, which include a hot meal, adult programs which include a lunch, and food pantries which provide groceries to an average of 250 families each and every month. Hunger has many young faces. The human heart hungers for more than food. Those many hungering hearts are nourished with love and understanding. The nutrition program provides 2 weekend bag breakfasts to 750 elementary students in 3 neighborhood schools. 100% of the students qualify for federal breakfast and lunch programs. And when school is not in session, the mission's weekend breakfasts meet those needs. Give someone a fish, and you'll feed them today. Teach them how to fish, and they can feed themselves every day. The missions enable youth to discover and to cultivate their gifts and talents so that the vision of greatness they have for themselves can become a reality. Through Catholic social services, the missions provides a wide range of social ministries and services to those living in poverty. Each client's situation is approached with a sense of compassion and empathy. Selma, Alabama, and the surrounding Black Belt region come with a unique set of challenges. The missions is located in one of the poorest counties in Alabama. Moreover, Selma's unemployment rate is 30% higher than that of the nation. Even today, unemployment rates in the rural areas served approach the unemployment rates of the Great Recession. The average annual income of those served by the missions is a mere $9,000. The missions works to confront those challenges and restore a client's dignity. Staff respond to social crisis, families burned out of their homes, mothers of young children whose heat has been turned off, seniors whose roofs cannot keep out the rain, young men released from prison with nowhere to stay but the streets that lead to their downfall, veterans seeking housing and jobs, emergency access to life-saving medications, support to the bereaved, and so much, much more. Counseling and financial support are offered in Selma and in the rural areas served by the missions, with an emphasis whenever possible on solving the root problems that led to the crisis to begin with. Counseling sessions are used to promote self-worth and to map out a path to self-reliance. Licensed social workers strategize with clients, focusing on how to become an advocate for themselves and various ways to overcome the state of chronic crisis many clients experience. The missions counsels more than 100 people per week and provides over 22,000 client services each year. Still, the need exceeds our capacity. On average, 72 requests for assistance go unmet each month. Rejuvenating our seniors and giving them a joyful environment to ease the burdens of being elderly and struggling with poverty are part of what our efforts are with our senior citizens. Nearly a quarter of all Selma, Alabama's seniors are living in poverty, and many also live with chronic disease. People of lower social economic status are much more likely to develop chronic diseases. For example, they have a 50% higher risk of developing heart disease, leading to shortened life expectancy and lowering the quality of their lives. The mission's senior program works to break the cycle of poverty and chronic diseases by promoting good health, well-being, and self-esteem. The Senior Activity Program helps participating seniors to avoid isolation. The key refrain heard time and time again is the mission ensures that seniors are not forgotten. Through partnership with HealthLink, a healthcare organization that serves those without medical insurance and also those underinsured, healthcare needs of the elderly poor are met. COVID-19 and its differential impact on those with compromised health has driven home the fundamental importance of good nutrition, which is at the root of much chronic disease among the poor. Improved nutrition is an essential element of any strategy for disease prevention, especially the food insecure. By working in concert with Family Doc in a Bus and HealthLinks, the poor who are sick and in pain are cared for. The subtitle of this presentation is Moving from Good Samaritans to Better Samaritans to Best Samaritans. The apprenticeship program does more than teach someone how to fish. Knowing how to fish doesn't mean someone will actually go fishing and catch fish. So the apprenticeship program includes building responsibility and addressing personal challenges too. The Edmundite Missions works closely with local public high schools. The After School New Possibilities Youth Program, which focuses on STEM and community leadership, includes experiential learning around food and nutrition. The summer camp includes organic gardening, cooking lessons with products from the garden, and preparation of healthy snacks. The emphasis on nutrition is intended to address the very high rates of obesity due to poor diet. The focus on STEM is to empower youth with knowledge, technology, and skills necessary to secure a better future. The missions also provides summer enrichment programs alongside GED assistance. Programs offer youth a safe place to be exposed to new things, leading to self-discovery and self-confidence. In the rural areas, the missions' after-school homework and tutoring programs are the only such academic-based after-school or summer programs available to young people of any age. Program effectiveness is demonstrated by the fact that participating elementary school students in the rural programs typically advance one full grade level in mathematics after participating in a summer camp conducted by the missions. The Edmundite Mission seeks to turn its services into solutions. The missions believes there is no greater goal than showing children new possibilities outside the lives they've known and helping them build the academic skills they'll need to achieve new possibilities. The missions will continue to change the course of the community's future, one child at a time. Edmundite Missions Enterprises is a social enterprise solution to self-reliance for the poor in Selma, Alabama, the conic symbol of civil rights and the fight for equality. Operating inside Edmundite Missions, a Catholic nonprofit, Enterprises uses commerce to create jobs with skills in demand in the marketplace, lift the visibility of poverty in the Deep South, and generated needed revenue to feed the poor. 100% of the profits go towards achieving these goals. Working in concert with Wallace Community College of Selma, a Forwards Fellowship program provides help so students can complete their education and prepare for a successful occupation. These are challenging days for the youth of our world. Some argue that youth are tuning out. Others, however, see quite a different scenario. The youth feel left out. The Edmundite Missions connects with youth who want to make a difference and who deeply care about the poor. Each year, high school and college groups of volunteers come to offer their time and their talents to show their concern and solidarity with the poor and the disadvantaged. Students from John Carroll High School in Birmingham come each year. They are one of several schools that avail themselves of a trip to Selma. Other students who are deeply committed to peace and justice and ending racism visit the missions to understand better the causes of hatred and injustice. A summer intern program for the University of Notre Dame students and week-long civil rights workshops for St. Michael's College students illustrate the serious intention some young adults have in becoming best Samaritans of tomorrow. The Edmundite community was founded to rebuild a region of France that had lost its religious mooring and spiritual grounding. The need has moved to the Black Belt of Alabama, but the original task to bring the good news of the gospel to the neediest remains. The Edmundite mission underscores 4 important points. You are an integral part of the church and her mission. Your participation is vital to the church and her mission. Your gifts and your talents are needed to build that mission. You are called from being what St. Paul calls a stranger and an alien to being a full partner. Over the years, many have been an integral part of the church through the Edmundite missions. Their participation was vital to the survival of many ministries and programs. Their time, talents, and treasures built the Edmundite missions that exist today. Their active role transformed them from being strangers to full partners in ministry. We remember those who have gone before, upon whom the missions were built. May God reward these good and faithful partners. Thank you for watching this presentation. May God grant you an abiding faith, an enduring hope, and an untiring love.